Hello everyone, thank you for joining us again today in Richmond for the England team announcement for England versus Italy in the Guinness Six Nations. We have England head coach Steve Borthwick, who will open with a couple of comments and then we'll come to the floor for questions. Thank you. Steve, can I hand over to you?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to the press conference today ahead of an exciting fixture with Italy. I think everybody watching round one of the Six Nations will see the strength of the Italian side, and I picked an England team to face that challenge. I'm delighted to welcome back Henry Slade and Henry Arundel from injury. The squad have trained with tremendous application and determination this week, and we're really looking forward to this challenge on Sunday. Thank you.
Thanks very much. James, we'll come to you first. Thanks.
Steve, why have you decided to go for Owen Farrell over Marcus Smith at 10?
Yeah, I think I've decided to change that combination for this week. With, as ever, when I pick a team, I look at the plan we want to play against a specific opposition, and certainly I think that's something I've explained to the players, that that's the way the team will be picked, and that's the decision I made for the way we want to play this week. I think it's fantastic to welcome Henry Slade back. I think he's a player who's played very well, played well for his club, has great attributes in the centre there, fantastic left foot, which gives us another aspect, another strength to the team. I think Ollie Lawrence has played really well all season for his club. He's certainly a player on form, so I think we've got some exciting players there in the centre, and that's why I decided to make the change.
So the fly-half selection, that is a short-term selection just for this game rather than a change in policy in terms of fly-half?
My policy always has been, I've been very clear about this, is that I'll pick a team for the game we are playing. And I've been very clear that every game matters for England. I'm not looking to games beyond or aspects beyond in months to come. And I focus upon this week. And that's what I'm doing with this team, and that's something I've said to the team from day one.
Do you feel Owen Farrell's best position is fly half?
I feel that this is a team right for this game, and I feel we're blessed that we've got some fantastic fly halves. So if we look at Owen's ability to play 10-12, Marcus as a player, Finn Smith's been in the squad, George Ford's back on the pitch. We've got some fantastic fly halves in this country, which is brilliant for the competition for places, and we want that across the team. And I think when you look at this team, I think you see exciting young talent. I think Ollie Hassel-Collins on his debut did really well last week. I think you just talked about Ollie Lawrence, talked about having Henry Slade back, and I think you see how hard Henry Arundel has worked to get back to this point. And when I saw him in training a week or so ago, obviously I've watched him as a player from afar, and seeing him first hand in training, I think he's an incredible talent.
How did Marcus Smith take the news? Because he's made that 10 shirt his own over the last 18 months, hasn't he?
Marcus has been brilliant, and every player has been brilliant that I have the conversation with around selection. And as a player, I've been in that conversation on the other side of it as well. I've been the one who's received whether you've been, and I remember them. I remember the conversations when you've been told you're selected, been told you're captain, been told you're not selected, you're on the bench, wherever it may be. I've been in each of those situations, and I have empathy for every player in that situation. What I want to build here is a squad with the England team where some players, at different times, you'll have a different role to play, but we're all moving towards building the team we want. And that's what I want to do this week. We've got a team that I've picked that feels the right team for how we want to play against specific opposition.
And leaving Ben Youngs out of the squad altogether, how difficult a decision was that for you, and what were your considerations in making that? Yeah,
well, I think, again, I look at this, Ben's a tremendous player and has a wealth of experience, and obviously I know him, having worked with him really closely for the last few seasons at club level also. The way he trained this week was brilliant. The way he handled the news around selection is testament to his character. And and there's other players similarly just model of putting the team first. And again, look at the quality of the nines. We've got 2 young nines in the squad this week who I think are the right nines for this game.
Is the door still open for Ben Youngs at this point in his career?
I said this again consistently. We want to have competition for places in this England team. It's the way it should be. And if we get competition for places, then by a matter of fact, you'll then have players, high quality players that aren't selected. My job is to pick the right blend of players for the game we're playing, the type of game we're playing, the opposition we're playing, which is what I've done this week. And that means there are good players who aren't selected. Now, what I look is how they respond. And I'd say to a man, every one of the players this week has trained brilliantly.
Thank you. We'll go to Russ then, please, then to Mitch, and then we'll come to Sonia.
Hi, Steve. I guess one potential benefit as well from what we've done for this weekend from an England point of view is Marcus Smith off the bench. As a replacement, what kind of thing might he be able to bring with that slight shift for at least this week, do you think, with his skill set?
Well, I think you look at the talent that is on the bench, the replacements there, that you look at Alex Mitchell, you look at the pace he brings into a game, the line break he brings around the ruck, the speed of pass he has. You then look at Marcus and all the strengths he brings, his ability to find space, and then Henry Arundel. And what I think from looking at that, I think that's a very exciting blend to be able to change a game and change the way you want to play within the game. So from my, I think it's brilliant. And then that's not to mention the forwards, because we've got some pretty good forwards on the bench. Maybe not quite, one or two of them not quite as young when you look, but I thought Dan Cole came off the bench and had an immediate impact, which I was very pleased to see last week.
Talking of forwards, Jack Willis has had a very difficult journey in many ways, hasn't he, with his injuries, his club effectively folding, going to France. Just to cap this journey and be back and starting in a game like this, maybe just tell me a bit about Jack.
Yeah, so Jack, and I've spoken to Jack, which I think every week since I took this role out in Toulouse there, and watching and seeing how hard he has worked again. He was a player who had a knock and wasn't playing for the first few weeks of January, but he's worked tremendously hard to get to this point, and I'm delighted for him. He's then had to manage things very clear where he couldn't stay for the full training week. He's then gone and played for his club. He's come back in, he's trained again with us, and then gone and played for his club again. And he's managed all those demands in a really mature and professional manner. And he adds to a really competitive back row that we have here. Lots of good players fighting for those shirts.
Touched on them very briefly at the start, but Italy under Kieran Crowley, I mean, the attacking endeavour, how close they went against France. This really is an incredibly difficult challenge and a really resurgent team for me.
Yeah, and I think you see that as you watch now, when you watch the teams that have been together effectively for a few years, as they're building towards this season, as they're trying to kind of putting the finishing touches towards their games. That's what I see with the Italian team. You see the development over previous seasons. You see the combinations of players playing together. They've got pace. They've developed. They're clearly a very fit, dynamic side, and they play the game. They play the game fast, and you've seen that growth almost year on year on year over the last period of time. It's a great challenge. It certainly makes, as you watch that, and I'm sure everybody who watched that game, and they played against France last Sunday, you see what a competition we have here in the Six Nations Championship.
And just finally from me, since we've last spoken to you, some big coaching changes. Richard Cockrell goes at the end of the tournament effectively, and you've got Aled Walters and Rich Wigglesworth coming in at the end of the season. Could we just have a word on the importance and the role of all of that, please?
Yeah, so Richard Cockrell's been superb over these previous 2.5 weeks in terms of the role. So we had discussions very early on about what his long-term plans were looking like they were going to be, but he's a guy. There's very few people who care about the England rugby team as much as he does. I think we all see that, and I'm delighted to have him in the coaching team for this championship. I think to have Aled and Richard Wigglesworth join the team at the end of the Premiership season is brilliant. The Aled's international experience He's a guy who's ultimately has the gold medal from the 2019 World Cup. He knows what it takes to win at the very, very highest level. You see the same with Richard Wigglesworth, who's just won consistently as a player and as an assistant coach, whilst being an assistant coach for the last 2 or 3 years, whilst being a player. Has an unbelievable understanding of the game. So I'm delighted they'll be joining the England team.
Thanks, Mitch.
Steve, one thing you couldn't have factored in last week in your planning was those missed tackles for those 2 tries. Can you just talk to us about what it's been like with your defence coach this week and the atmosphere and what you've worked on in that defence?
Yeah, I think, again, it's trying to take a step forward. And that's what we've tried to do every single day since I came in here, I don't know, 2.5 weeks ago as we came in as a squad, is can we move forward every single day? And yes, we have a fair amount to do, and it's been about keep getting better, and we've tried to make progress. I think within the game on Saturday, I think we saw progress in certain areas. Our speed of ball increased. I think we, as a team, we ran more than any other team in the championship in round one of the championship out of the 3 games. So I think you see improvement there. The team went down on the scoreboard, and I think what you've seen the team in recent times go down on the scoreboard and then not recover. And I think we saw that. We saw a resilience in the team, but ultimately we didn't finish the job. And what we're going to do is we've got to finish the job. I was very clear on the very first press conference I had. My job's to deliver, and at 60 minutes it was strong at 20 points to 12, and we let them back in, and then we got a bit of a gap again. And until 74 minutes, it was, again, we were in a position to win the game, but we didn't. We let them score too easily, and we're determined to make sure we're better than that.
Thank you. We'll come to Sonia, then Nick, and we'll finish with Julian. Thank you. Sonia.
Hi,
thanks.
Steve. I can bring you back to this change at 10. You've said you're changing it and putting Farrell there because it's a specific combination for the specific opposition. So can I ask you, what is it specifically about Italy that means you've made that call this time round?
Yeah. So thanks, Sonia. And yeah, quite clear, and I'd expect exactly that question. And quite clearly, as head coach of the team, I'm not going to give too much about the tactics away. I think that in terms of a dynamic there, having Henry Slade available this week's been very important. He was unavailable last week, and having his distribution skills, and I think we all seen that, and his left foot kicking option is also a great strength. I think any team that has the ability to have right and left footers in the back line, it's a strength. And then as I look at, again, defensive systems that we wish to attack, different defensive systems that we, I think Ollie Lawrence brings a certain skill set, and I think he's been bringing that skill set. He's been showing that. I think we'd all agree, watching the Premiership this season, he's been tremendous. So I want him to bring that skill set that he has in the way he carries the ball, and the way he also defends in the physical manner he does.
Thank you. Nick, thanks.
Hi, Steve. For Henry, he's obviously been around for a long time now, but he's maybe not sort of been the sort of front and centre of everything, but I guess he's sort of coming to the prime of his career. Can this be the time where he brings all that together and really becomes a really important player for the squad?
Yeah, well, I think I look back to some of the games in the first period of time I was with the England team as an assistant coach, and you get the way Henry played in some very, very important games for us, and the way he brought the strengths I've just discussed in some really important games. So, and then I've been out of the team for 2 or 3 years, and coming back, I can't tell you how impressed I have been with him. The conversations I've had with him, the determination he has had to be in this team, the concern he had when he had the red card that was then rescinded, his concern of not being available to play for England, and then unfortunately it led to an injury, and just seeing how passionate he is about wanting to play for England. I think he's clearly more experienced now. Another few years, he's a real seasoned campaigner, I think, both at international level and club level, and he has an outstanding skill set.
obviously test sides that have had the luxury of very settled coaching group and playing staff tend to have similar selections week on week. Is that just a luxury you don't have because of the circumstances which you find yourself?
I think it's fair to say we're not in that situation. I think we're in a situation where we need to be constantly growing on a daily basis, trying to address certain areas, clear priorities about what we're trying to improve and work upon, and trying to get those onto the pitch, and then reviewing those clearly. The situation you highlight is not ours, so what we do is concentrate on trying to be the best team we can be. And whilst I saw growth last weekend, overall there's a disappointment that we didn't get the result. We didn't get the job finished, and what we've got to do this week is make sure we get the result.
Thank you. And Julian, we'll finish with you. Thanks. The mic's over there, Julian. You can just speak if you want.
Yes, Steve. So just specifically, I know you sort of talked in general terms about how the Italians have made progress. What particularly caught your eye against France, has caught your eye about them in recent times that's different from the Italian sides we've done before?
Yeah, well, I think that they clearly have pace. They certainly have pace in their back three. Thomas around 10, the players they've got in the inside backs, they've got experience. Many of them got experience in terms of rugby at the highest level. And then what they've also developed is a forward pack. I talked about the fitness of that forward pack. I also look at the competition at the breakdown. And as you see right now in round one of the championship, you see the competition at the breakdown and the way the breakdown has been officiated. And you see, you're trying to get an understanding of why decisions are going a certain way. You know, there were certainly some decisions late in the game that were very significant in round one in our game against Scotland at Twickenham, that we need to have a clear understanding of why they went that way. And Italy have got a high degree of competition at that breakdown, which that was certainly something that was evident in their game against France.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We'll end the live section there. Writers will go into the writers briefing over there, and then we'll go through
Thank
the
you.
rotations. Thank you.
Thank you.